Hello everybody, thanks for coming by to check out my review of 2017's It. This one's directed by Andy Muschietti. It's very much more a reinterpretation of the novel as the source material as opposed to the 1990 made-for-TV movie, which, you know, I saw that as an 8-year-old kid, kind of remembered it through rose-colored glasses for quite some time. Tim Curry did great in it, but to be real, it's not good. The cast isn't good, the effects aren't good, and it had a real cheap made-for-TV vibe about it. It wasn't scary even, so it failed on a lot of levels, but for some reason it really did catch on in the culture. People talk about it a hell of a lot more than they talk about The Stand or Langoliers or something like that. Stephen King has made quite a resurgence. Not that he ever went anywhere, but man, we're getting a lot of King adaptations. Like 2017 has been the revival of Stephen King stuff, probably in large part due to Stranger Things. The Losers Club in this film is played by a bunch of very talented young actors and actresses, and they got chemistry for days. Easily my favorite part about it, but I wanted to go ahead and give them their due. Jaden Lieberhart plays Bill. Jeremy Ray Taylor plays Ben. Sophia Lillis plays Beverly. Finn Wolfhard plays Richie, and you know Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. And Chosen Jacobs is Mike Hanlon. Jack Dylan Grazer is Eddie. And then we go down the line. Wyatt Olaf is Stanley Uris. Bill Skarsgård is Pennywise. The thing is, Pennywise the Clown comes and wreaks havoc on Derry, Maine every 27 years. It's actually been 27 years between 2017 and 1990, so that's a cool little meta thing they have going on. And as opposed to setting it in the 1950s, where the 1990s film took place, they decided to bring it up into the 80s. Because the 80s are hot right now, guys. Let's just take a second to realize how much shit is taking place in the 80s. But luckily, this didn't rely a whole lot on that. It was a backdrop, and it was a setting without it beating you over the head with the nostalgia thing. I mean, they did throw a Street Fighter reference in there, which was cool. And then there was a couple little not Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block references that I found amusing. But yeah, the cast, super, super good. Finn Wolfhard ended up being a very funny character. He had just dozens of side-splitting lines throughout the film. And I really enjoyed the way that all these characters played off each other. There's really two different dynamics at play here. There is just this, drama about these kids growing up in a small town, being pursued by these horrible fucking bullies. And then on the flip side of that, there's this supernatural element where they're having to deal with it. It is able to take the shape of anything that you fear. And he was able to exploit these kids' emotions because he knows what they fear the most. And it's something they have a personal connection to. So in a lot of ways, it's a metaphor. And I do like to kind of, view it through that lens because it gives the proceedings a little more weight and a little more value because, man, you guys aren't going to like this, but I didn't think it was scary. I thought it was funny and it had good dramatic elements to it, but I was a little let down by the scare scenes. I mean, they showed it to you so early that it's hard to ramp it up past that. Kevin and I talked about that on our Godzilla review that's up on the YouTube channel. But that's something that I found to be a weak point of the movie. It's like we didn't need so many different scenes of it chasing these kids. We know who he is. We know what's going on. And maybe a big problem is our familiarity with this story. It's hard to have as much dramatic tension or stakes when you know the outcome of the film. You know who's going to bite it. You know who's going to live. And they can't really mess with that formula, especially if this is part one of a two-part series. I want to touch on the bullies for a second. They're very threatening in this movie. They're very cruel and disturbed and disturbing, and they do some pretty horrible things to the Losers Club. I would have liked to get a little bit more three-dimensional character development out of them, so maybe you could sympathize with them. There was one scene in particular with the lead bully where you kind of saw where a little bit of his mentality came from, but it never really gives you much time to, sympathize and say, man, he's a jerk, but maybe that's the reason why. And also Bev's father was a little bit, it was ambiguous as to what his relationship was with her, but he was just always creepy, lurking around in the shadows, just being real weird. And so honestly, I don't think I mentioned it when I was talking about the cast, but I think Beverly's character came out the most well-rounded and well-defined, the easiest to kind of understand all the way around. And I think the actress that portrayed her did a really good job. So it's got elements of Stand By Me. There's train track scenes. They go looking for dead bodies. There's definitely things that have recurred in Stephen King's stories over the years, which, let's be honest, he goes back to the well quite a few times. But yeah, so overall, I think it was an enjoyable film. I think that the performances and the cast elevated it above what we see in most horror films, but I had very high expectations. I saw the early reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. I listened to like Perry Nemiroff on Collider, and all these people just go fucking ham about how great of a movie it was. And it's an above average horror movie that is more heartwarming than it is terrifying. And I don't know if that's what you're going to the movies for. Of course, I don't have this crazy irrational fear of clowns either. Maybe I'm the only one, but yeah. All that out of the way, on a scale of 1 to 5, I'm giving it a 3.25. Can I do that? Like a fraction of a star? If not, I'll go towards 3 as opposed to 3.5. Lots to like about it. A little bit that I feel like could have been improved. A longer runtime maybe even would have benefited a little bit. But that's my review. I'd love to hear from you. That's the thing to do. No, God. No. I'm going to edit that out in post. But let's talk about it, guys. Have you seen it? Are you planning on seeing it? Is the original 1990s miniseries the scariest shit you've ever seen? Let's talk about it in the comment sections. Or you can give me a call at my personal number at 1-800-F***OFF. Jeremy, and click the like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you want to stay up to date with more terrible content. And until next time, be terrible.